We are welcoming Anne Lansing to the show today. Anne is the CEO of Safe Schools Mohawk Valley and longtime advocate for youth safety and community growth in Central New York. So, Anne, for those who may not know yet, how do you describe the mission of what Safe Schools Mohawk Valley does here in the community?
Mission. So we work with kids to eliminate barriers so that they can succeed in school. And a lot of that's social emotional barriers that we work with that schools don't always have the time to address. And it can be anything that's going on in their world. But we want kids to come to school, to be successful in school, and to graduate. And we've started to even work beyond that, whether they want to go to college, whether they want to get into a trade, whatever their career aspirations are. When they're little, it's always, I want to be, the star athlete. And then we start talking about, well, you might not be the star athlete, but what else can you do to work with sports, let's say, or dance or something like that? There's all kinds of things that they can do. So, but that's pretty much what we do in a nutshell. And whatever's going on with them, we try to address. And if our agency can't through our programs, then we will refer out or we'll find the support that they need.
Okay, before we get into the meat and potatoes of what you guys actually provide and you do, let's talk about your background. You were born and raised here in Utica,
Yes.
but
Yep.
you spent time in Lake Tahoe, Atlanta, California. What brought you back?
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. When I read that, I'm like, pretty impressive
That
to come back to you
is,
because
like,
those are pretty awesome places to live.
Yeah.
They were, and part of it was too far from home.
Yeah.
Part of it was too big of a community. And then part of it was that I never found the same supportive environment anywhere else. And I think when I left, I left right after college and I'm like, I'm never coming back, just like so many kids say. But I needed to experience the world to appreciate how fortunate we are here. Yeah. Some of my goals were I wanted to own my own home. I wanted to be around family. I wanted to have, a 5-minute commute to work. Where in some of those places, it was, even though mileage I wasn't far from home and work, it could take an hour to 2 hours. And
Traffic is a game changer.
Yes.
We experienced that too.
Yes.
Extremely frustrating.
And why does it, the day you're late, there always has to be, somebody that broke down or, whatever. And I started when I lived in Oakland and I was working in San Francisco, and I started following the ambulance going across the bridge. I'm like, this is great, and get right over until I learned it's illegal to do that.
I like the out-of-the-box thinking there.
I'm like, why isn't
Did you have your hazards on?
I'm like, I'm just going with that ambulance, right? But yeah, there's just some things about, what I wanted in life that was different and that I really missed the community I had. I started my, my career in Utica, and we have such a supportive environment here. Like, I had some tremendous mentors that I brought with me. I would call all the time, no matter where I was, but they were always here. And it was harder to find those in other communities. It was more kind of cutthroat a little bit, and harder that people would step on people versus help raise them up. And this community has just been tremendous. I just have kept so many great people in my life that have helped me. And then I wanted to be able to give that back too.
You mentioned confronting perceptions of quote-unquote small-mindedness, which I love. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, small-mindedness. So many people that I'm hearing now want their kids to stay here. We want to keep them local. We want, them to not leave. When they leave and they don't come back, and what does that all mean? And I'm more of an advocate. Let them leave. Let them experience life, and let them bring those experiences back here. And I have found so many people that have come back to raise their children. Might come back in their 30s and say, this is where I want to raise it because so many other things are going on in the world or families here. But I just love the convenience here. How many miles? Like I said, I live in Clinton, but to drive down here was no big deal. And I'm just driving down here. I'm like, I came over Higbee and I'm like, it's so beautiful. Yeah. How lucky we are. Like, it just is overwhelming how incredible it is. Like, you can, I would tell, when I worked in California schools, I would tell the kids, about, I don't know, can I say it's about cow tipping? I never actually did it.
We have people that swear sometimes.
We're going to hit all the illegal activities early in this interview.
Perfect. And they were like, what, you could actually do that? And I'm like, and they're like, where do you find a cow? And I'm like, I'm about 5 minutes away from my house. And just another anecdote. When I was working in California, I was working with kids, and we talk about winter, and obviously they don't really get snow or anything where I was in the Bay Area. And they'd ask me what it feels like. What does it feel like to touch snow? And how cold does it get? And I'm trying to think, and I'm thinking, how did I describe how cold snow is? And I was like, I know. I said, sometimes when you go outside, you can actually feel your nose hairs freeze. And they would just,
It
or
hurts
your
you.
eyelashes when you're skiing and they're like freezing, you can't open them. The kids are like, oh my God, that's incredible. So I love that. I love the changes of the seasons. I really miss that. I love that you can kind of hunker down when in the winter time and be vibrant and fun and everything outside. And when I was living in California, I'm like, it never rained. I'm like, so around here, I'm like, I got to bring my umbrella. I got to know when it's going to rain. Out there, I'm like, it's just too nice. I got to be outside every day. Like, I was tired. I'm like, I want a rainy day. So I don't feel like I have to be out there.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those, like, if every day were a holiday, we'd have nothing to look forward to
Right?
type situations.
Exactly.
So I think you got it totally right when you said what brings a majority of the people back to our area is children
Yep.
and kids. And I
Right.
know that was the situation for Scott and I. We lived in Northern Virginia,
Oh,
right
yeah?
outside of D.C. So much to do.
Yep.
We had our first child. And I knew that I didn't want to raise him there. And I
Yes.
didn't want him to attend schools there that I was teaching at. I was teaching in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
I didn't want that for my own child. So I love the mission of Safe Schools is keeping our education system the way that we remembered it. We are
Right.
older.
Yes.
And we had a conversation before we started that our children are so different now.
Yes.
And their needs.
Yep.
And the things that they need from our school districts that educators can't give them solely.
Right.
So why don't you talk about what Safe Schools does in the school district to help support education for kids and the educators and everything?
Right. It's a tough time right now. And I feel like my parents saying like, oh my God, like when I was a kid and we didn't have all this and we walked 10, and literally when I was going to Utica schools, there were no school buses. You did walk, wherever you were, you walked everywhere. But I think, what's happening with kids and is us as adults trying to understand the impact of everything that's happening in the world. I remember as a kid hearing about, remember we'd have drills that we'd have to hide under our desk if the nuclear were working, like that was going to save us. And now, but I never knew what a communist was. I heard it was, as a kid, I was like, is it a monster? What is it? Like, is it nothing I felt like I could touch or understand what it was? And for these kids today, I think COVID did the same thing to them. What is this thing that scares me and could kill me? But you just take all of what's happening in the world and they get it instantaneously. They hear about it and they're trying to decipher what this means on their own. And I think with that and with technology and everything, it's very interesting now with the cell phone ban, how it's going. Yeah. I know a couple schools did it last year and had great success. And kids were like, wow, I don't have to worry that I'm missing out on something because my friends don't have a phone either. So I hope that we start to see that with everything that's going on. I'm very much supportive of that personally, the cell phone ban. And I think that just everything that they're experiencing in the world, we can give them an opportunity with my agency to kind of talk about how does that impact you, what's going on, and then give them another way to think about it. And what we try to do is always, teach them resiliency skills, coping strategies. We're doing a lot more in mindfulness and meditation and really taking that time to just take a deep breath. I know for myself, my emails, I had to put the 30-second pause before it send because I'm like, I want to mad at something. I'm like, but that's not how I need to get that out. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn for myself, I might want to not send that. Sometimes I need longer than 30 seconds, but that does help. And I think it's just for kids to understand, just take a deep breath and think about your responses to everything. And we just have such a fast-paced culture. Mm-hmm. And like you talked about with, there's a regimen of what teachers have to do in the classroom. There's no time to stop and think or let a child just have a bad moment. Let them express, I'm just not feeling good today, or I had something happen to me at home, or I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on with them, and it might not be that they didn't have food at home. It might be that, they got up too late, father's frustrated, and we're getting you on the bus, and there was no time to eat. Right. Or it might be that there wasn't food at the house. Mm-hmm. So there could be just a lot of reasons that kids are just having a bad day. And, you mentioned that everybody's human. So even a teacher can be grumpy one day. Mm-hmm. And how does that impact the kids? Because they feel it. They sense it.
This is a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go back 20 years.
Yeah.
What in you said, this is my calling, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to build? Like, was there a moment? Was there something specific that drove you to start this?
Okay, let's be honest. So I moved back here 20 years ago, and I didn't plan on staying. I didn't know if I would stay in Utica.
Sure.
I figured the Northeast definitely where I wanted to be, and I love the Northeast. Wasn't sure it was going to be Utica. I took this job, and it was a grant. The agency was founded on a grant that the Utica City School District got from the federal government, and it was called Safe Schools, Healthy Students. And it was the federal government came together after Columbine and said, we need to do something. We need to deal with violence. We need to deal with drug use, depression, anxiety, all that stuff that were going on with kids. So they dump all this money into a school district. And then in 3 years, they said, now you take it on. So they were, I think it was like $2.6 million a year they were putting in, right? And I came in when the grant ended, and the Board of Education decided to create a nonprofit that would work closely with the school district to bring in different funding, to bring in different programs, to work with agencies that were coming into the school. And I came in at the end of the grant, and they let me know that we probably don't have enough money to get through the year, so we're going to have to figure that out. And I took the job. I don't know that I really knew what was all happening. But I just started looking at what are the needs of our community, and I just got really involved. And what I learned in California when I was working at the school districts was that the gang mentality scared me to death. That culture and these kids that are born and raised in it don't have an option to get out. And our children were being murdered. Our young people were dying because of this gang. So I came back here and I'm like, we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let violence take over, and we're going to do something about it. And I also loved all the cultures that were here, that were coming in. I was so excited about all that, and to see sushi in Utica. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But I also saw that there was divisions, and we started to get kids going in groups and doing some criminal activity or bullying other kids. And I said I wanted to intervene on that. So programs kind of started out that way. And we were also in New York State criminalizing our youth too young. And so we had what we call in New York State Raise the Age. So prior to 2017, 2018, if you were 16 years or younger, you were a child. 16 years or older, you were treated as an adult if you committed a crime. We were one of 2 states left in the country that did that. Everybody else at 18, you became an adult. So we, as an agency, worked with that, but we also worked with schools. Don't criminalize a kid for being stupid. Because at school, it was an easy way for schools to kick kids out if they did something stupid. Like, you're the one problem I have. If you go away, then I don't have the problem anymore. But that's one child that gets, right. I don't want to say tossed away, but it certainly felt like that to the child. Sure. And so, to be honest, I again, nothing against men, but boys can do some really stupid things, but then they were getting arrested for it. So we had this one boy who took a girl's phone because he liked her and he didn't know how to talk to her. So he took her phone to force her to talk to him. And she freaked out because, your phone is like your part of your body. She freaked out, wanted him arrested, wanted everything to happen. And he's like, but I just wanted to talk to you. So that phone was, $1,500. That can actually be a felony. Right? And is that what we want to do to our children who are just kind of being kids? Being kids. Yeah. Or graffiti. No one does graffiti and think, oh my God, I can go to jail for this. So what do we do for things like that? And that we started doing a lot more with that and got us involved. And one of the things I'm proud of, we started a restoration program in Utica, and we actually changed the culture of the school district and the police department as how they looked at kids, and seeing that we fought because they're like, oh, you're giving that kid an unfair advantage. You're just, you're not holding that child accountable if we don't arrest them. There's a whole slew of ways to hold a kid accountable without having them go into the system. Yeah. And be more supportive and have a more successful outcome. And showing those outcomes change things for kids and for the system.
So Safe Schools Mohawk Valley Division is in 8 or 9 districts. I remembered. I can't remember exactly how many you said.
I think it's 9.
9 districts. Okay, and one thing that your website did focus on is trauma-enforced care.
Yes.
So you're talking about behavior issues as well, which are super important because a lot of times behavior issues are a cry for help.
Yes.
That they want help.
Absolutely.
Trauma care is part of your agency's work as well. So can you talk about so you're based in these schools. You have people that are based in the school district.
Correct.
And it's individualized instruction.
Yes.
Students are pulled out individually.
Yep.
To get the support that they need out of the classroom. Can you talk a little bit about the types of things that you work on with the kid, or even a great story that you have, like a success story with a certain student or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to say that, to talk about trauma-informed care is been a game changer, and I think in our culture and the way we provide services. So instead of saying to a child, which is what was said to me when I was growing up, "What's wrong with you?" To this day, my mother still says to me, "What's wrong with you?" And we say that to kids all the time, not thinking it. And we in trauma-informed care change that to what happened to you. So we start looking at what happened to you as to what's causing this behavior. And instead of looking at the child that can control their behavior, is doing it on purpose, and is acting out for some, just to irritate us as adults, we start looking at what's going on with them. And so looking at that trauma, so are they being neglected? Are they being abused? Did something happen? Like we had one child who, fourth grader, stopped coming to school. And the school, so typically what happens, we'll get referred that child, say they're not coming to school. I've called the family, nobody's answering. And so then the child gets referred to us, and we'll start figuring out kind of what's going on. So we started working with the child, went to the home and tried to talk to the parents, had a hard time getting into the home, weren't figuring out what was going on. Finally, the child shows up to school one day, we start talking to them. Fourth grader, 2 parents with terminal illness. He was so terrified. He had a younger sibling at home. He was so terrified if he came to school, they wouldn't be alive when he got home. And so we started, again, just asking the questions.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? And just like I got goosebumps thinking about it like this. I can still see this child. And to think that that's the load they're carrying. Of course, parents don't mean to do that. But the child became the adult for the younger siblings, right? Mm-hmm. And that's certainly not what the parents want. And the parents didn't have the support they needed. There wasn't an extended family to support them. And not really, trying to take care of each other, not realizing the impact that has on kids. So we started talking to the child with the family. We got the family more support that they needed. And we got the child more support as well, too, to be able to give a place for him to express himself and his fear. And not knowing that his fear was taking over him. So I think we find tons of stories like this, that once we start talking to a child and we start learning what they need, then we can understand, oh, they weren't being difficult. Oh, they didn't just decide, they're not running around the neighborhood doing something bad because they're not coming to school. Something's really going on with them.
It is so important, because how can you expect kids to come to school and be academically successful when they have a huge issue like this? And
Yes.
So how do you identify these situations? Are the children brought to you? Are you trying to find children
Is it
who
teacher
need your
referral?
services?
Each district's really different, and each district's really different about what they want us to do. I mean, we have the same philosophy in all of them, so we might be in one district doing a lot more like campaigns on, social emotional health and where do you come for support, and we'll do themes in the building, and we'll do maybe more groups with kids. We'll pull them into smaller groups and some individual, or we've got other districts where we're just doing one-on-one, and like Utica, there's just 10,000 kids, and so we'll get just a list of who we just don't have time to give the individual support. They've had this many out-of-school suspensions or in-school suspensions, or they just can't function well in the classroom, and then we see if we can help them. And and then we work closely with the social worker, the teacher, whoever, the administrator in the building, and we just monitor it. If we can get them to succeed, great. If it's more than beyond us, we might refer to another agency to get more intensive services than what we can do. But the whole goal is to keep them in school.
And it is so important, because as an educator, there are times that you can see a kid is having a coming apart.
Yeah.
And they just need a separate space. Yeah. But they need a person to be with them in that separate place. You can't just be like, oh, go take 5. Yep. Go take 5, go for a walk. Like, you can't send the kid out, So this is really important, because it gives them that space to express themselves and have a moment and then come back to the learning environment.
Yep. Yeah.
So awesome.
And we have so many school districts that are really working on some are calling it like not a timeout room, but a rest room or resiliency room, where they may have different, they might be able to sit in a rocking chair.
Sensory
there might
things
be,
that they can do that relieves that stress that they're undergoing.
Or like a tent, and they just want to hide in a tent.
Yeah.
I walked into one of the rooms that we were helping build, and I was talking to my staff, and we were talking, and I didn't realize there was a kid like under a table and had, a bunch of things there, and they're like, oh, this is where they need to go during the lunch period, because the lunch room is just too overstimulating for them. Sure. And so they come in here, they have their lunch, and she had everything all set up the way she needed it to be set up, and don't touch anything. And just, and the kid did phenomenal now in school because they had that time out, that place where they could go and just be like, okay, I need to check in with myself, and I just need quiet.
And I think as parents, as educators, as just people, we're realizing that all children are different.
Yes.
And to expect every kid to sit in a seat and learn, that's not their learning style.
No.
And that they cannot learn that way. So we need to be accommodating to kids that need different things. And I think children are more in tune to that now.
Yes.
Like I even know my own kids. They get it.
Yes.
You know, and
because they're seeing it.
For sure. And it's okay. Like I know when I was teaching, like I had certain kids that had a bouncy chair. Yeah. And they got to say, and they were able to be focused. And that's okay, because certain people need certain things to be successful.
Yep.
So it's so important that we're providing kids the things that they need in order to be successful academically.
And, and I think it's giving teachers the skills to understand that, too. I think that's the big thing that, and a lot of districts are doing, they're teaching about trauma-informed care. They're teaching about restorative practices to give the tools to the teachers. And if a teacher has their background and things trigger them, what do we do with it? So we work with that, like get to know your own self. Like when you feel that pit in your stomach because you're having a bad day, or a child just triggers something in you because of what they went through, then take that time out for yourself. So, we've had some significant, tragedies in our community, often can tend to be around the death of a child or suicide. And we've talked to school districts. Yeah, the kids need support, but the teachers do too. Because that tragedy affects all of us. And we forget that the adults, too, need the support. So we've had teachers come in and just sit down with us like, I'm frustrated. This is too overwhelming. I don't know what to do. And you almost like if you haven't got that perfect control of your classroom, right, where every child is sitting perfectly, you feel like, no, it doesn't. But you, like some of the younger teachers will feel like a failure. Like, what am I not doing? Yeah. And so then we might go in and just sit with them and be like, okay, let us just take care of these kids, and give them something to do. But I worked in this one classroom when I was first starting out, and the lesson I had, I was just reading off a card, so I think they were maybe first graders. And one kid was doing a circle around the room, so distracting to me. And I'm like, okay, what do I... And I'm looking at the teacher like, are you going to tell the kid to sit down? Do I need to say anything? And this little girl looks at me and said, you just need to know that he has a different way of learning, and we're all okay with it. He needs to walk while he learns because he's paying attention, but we can all sit here. And I'm like, oh my God, she's 7 years old, and she's telling me this. And so I'm asking the questions, and he was right spot on with all the answers. The rest of them were kind of like looking around. But to understand that was okay, but to be able to tell the rest of the classroom, no, you all can't get up and walk around, but he needs that. And the self-esteem that probably builds for him to be successful.
Well, and you fast forward to adults, I think of like marketing meetings, right? Think tanks, they have basketball courts and ping pong tables, and they encourage that type of movement to create
creativity.
Yeah. So let's talk about ages. Is this a specific age, or is this from like K through 12?
K through 12. We do school age. Yep, we do school age.
So how many people are working for your organization?
It's around 40. There's around 40 of us, yeah.
And you mentioned that you are in need of people, too.
Yes, we've got open positions. Okay. So if anybody's interested, and, it's a great opportunity because, like, you can still have fun with kids, but still be teaching them something, right?
sure.
And so we have the opportunity, like we do a lot of games with kids, but we're always teaching, you're teaching about how to share, about how to take turns, about how to support somebody else. And so games are amazing, and there's so many fun things out there. Or to do yoga with kids. We've had yoga instructors, and then they bring in that, and just getting kids to move.
Breathe.
I love that we still do in schools, like kid gets sent to the office, sit there and don't move. And all the kid wants to do is move. And the more you tell them don't move, they're like, oh my God, I got to move. And I'm like, don't tell them to do that. Let us walk them around. Let us give them, we have fidget toys and everything. And some teachers, again, will get mad for us to give them fidget toys. I would have done so great with a fidget toy. That would have saved me. I probably would have been a much smarter student, because I needed to do something else. And I wouldn't have gotten in so much trouble. So, but anyway, we do have open positions in some of the local school districts. So we have some in elementary and a couple in the high school. So, and we talk to people, what are you more comfortable with? I'm not as good with middle school. I didn't like being that age. I struggled with it.
It takes a special person to be good in middle school, for sure.
It does. And, we've got some schools that are 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 7th, 8th, and 9th, or just 6th and 7th, or 6th. They're all different ones. And it's interesting because they can still be little kids, but they want to be adults. And so high school to me is a really fun age. I enjoyed working with high school kids or the little ones. I love kindergartners too. But we have openings in a couple of those buildings too. So love to have people join us.
Awesome. And you are a 501c3?
We are, yes.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother level of the whole other side of the business that, to keep all this going, you've got, I'm guessing, a full-time team of fundraisers, right?
Nope. Looking at it.
You're the full-time team?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a lot,
yes.
right? I mean, you talk about 40 jobs and all these different initiatives and programs that you offer. I'm guessing that's not easy.
No.
It's not inexpensive. Mohawk Valley Gives is coming up on September 19th. You participate in that. So those that are listening who want to support you and your organization with the Safe Schools Mohawk Valley can give on that day. Are there any incentives on that specific day or through that program? I know
Community Foundation will be doing incentives for us. Yes.
I think they offer the incentives if you donate, or they give away prizes and whatnot. I remember
so
when we get them on.
We'll be pushing all of that in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. And I know you had Community Foundation on. And again, I'm going to reiterate some of the things they said, is it's unrestricted funds. So when we, when you do some fundraising or you bring in grants or something, they can be very restrictive, which doesn't allow you to do as much as you want. And, there's a lot of scrutiny on nonprofits that they, people shouldn't make big salaries, and you shouldn't be able to, do a lot of things that businesses do. And I remember the nonprofits I used to work for, this is one joke I tell my staff, I'd have pencils, and I'd have to go down to as small as they could because we couldn't order pencils. We didn't have any funding for it. And I was like, we're okay as an agency. We can get you pencils. We're not sending you to a big, vacation or something, but I think it's important to have a healthy organization so they can continue to do the work and not live like some people do, paycheck to paycheck. So I love Mohawk Valley Gives. Again, it allows you to shine. It allows people to see all the great things that go on in this community and the amazing organizations. And you hear about all of them. And then you get to tell your story on one platform. And so the Community Foundation's been tremendously supportive of the work they do, and I really love this campaign, and it's really taken off over the last couple of years.
Sure has.
One more thing I definitely want to talk about is your Urban Leadership Institute.
Yes.
So inspiring. Last year's was First Responder Academy.
Correct, yes.
Why don't you talk a little bit about it?
I would love to. So about 14 years ago, I think we're in our 14th year, prior to that, we would send kids to a leadership camp, and we'd try to find those kids that couldn't afford it. And it'd be like $1,000, $1,500, and they'd go to a college campus and have an amazing experience. And one year I had a little extra money at the end of the school year to do something over the summer, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And I'm like, okay, we could send 1 or 2 kids, or I'm like, I can do this internally. I talked to a couple of my colleagues from other organizations. I'm like, you got any money? Can we come together? Can we do something? And here's my idea. We came together. We said we're going to do a leadership camp. And the thing that I wanted to do is there's a lot of kids that have leadership skills. They're just not using it in the best way, right? They're displaying that, and you start to see them at a young age. And if we can rally them in to start using it productively and start showing them how that leadership skill can get them to where they want to go in life, that would be amazing. So we started it with opening it up. It's a Mohawk Valley thing, so kids from anywhere can come.
Any school district.
Any school
not
district.
Not just your safe school districts. Okay.
No, we open it up. And, in the past, we've taken them, so quick little story, we've taken them up to the Adirondacks. We go up to Racket Lake, and we take them, I think it's Camp Huntington, which is actually on an island in the middle of the lake. And there's a ropes course up there, and there's all kinds of things they do. So we get kids from Utica, and we get kids from the surrounding area. And so it usually takes place in Utica the other days. And there's some people a little concerned at coming from the outside, coming into Utica. What does that mean? I don't know. I hear all these stories about Utica, and our Utica kids are like, oh, yeah, it's all fine. It's all fine. Sometimes trying to scare them about living in a city. But then it flips when we take them to the Adirondacks. And we had some of these, tough Utica kids terrified that a bear was going to eat them. So we just didn't tell them there were no bears on the island till the next morning just to keep them in line. But the other kids now felt empowered, like, oh, yeah, if this bear comes, this is what you do. If you see this, this is what you do. And to be able to share that experience and then to do the ropes course and to push your comfort zone and to try new things. So that's how we've always built it in the past, and we're constantly teaching leadership. So then I was talking to Marianne Bottenshawn, and she did a press conference and really wanted to do something with first responders. We know people aren't going into that field. We know in our area we have a lot of volunteer departments, and people just are not joining that. Or the police show up, and they're not getting a warm welcome, like, help me. They're getting, a lot of negativity. And so she said, what can we do to change that? And we as an agency just started bouncing some things around, and I have somebody that works for me. There's a retired Utica police officer, and we just started building that, and we started talking, and all the agencies, the first responder agency was like, yes, we want this. We want to talk to these kids. We want to get them involved. So we had a successful, this was probably one of our more successful years that kids came every day and wanted to hear. At the end, we had a graduation, and a bunch of kids went up, and the Sheriff's Department and the Utica Police Department offered ride-alongs to some of the kids if they really wanted to do that, to see what it's like to be them. Yeah. And then they went to the fire department. They got to do the hoses. That is what the kids loved the most. They loved, experimenting with that, putting on the gear to know how heavy it is, but to see it on the other side. And so I'm hoping we had a couple of kids that said they want to go into law enforcement, which would be wonderful. Yeah. That's what we need to see in our community, to be a part of that.
How do people connect with you? What's the best way for listeners to connect with?
Either we have a Facebook page, Safe Schools Mohawk Valley, our website, or they can reach out to me directly. It's just alansing@ssmv.org.
Awesome. Let's look ahead. What's your vision for the next chapter of Safe Schools Mohawk Valley?
My dream would be that an agency like ours isn't needed anymore. I'm not sure that world definitely exists because there's so many other competing factors, but it's always to just be on top of what are the evolving issues that our kids need support with and our families need support with. So, whether it's teaching the vital skills that we all need that we sometimes got from families or we got from schools. I went to Catholic schools for a few years, so I certainly had that perception. And I had, like 5 moms in my neighborhood. Like everybody in my neighborhood was the parent that could get me in trouble too, and could, punish me. But you learned all of that, and some kids don't have that. And so, I'm hoping that we get to a point that we have a world that takes a deep breath before they respond to a situation and really thinks about their response. Because I think that's what gets us in trouble as adults and gets us in trouble as kids.
Or that every school district needs to realize that they need this. This needs to be a position, a paid salary position, just like you have a school nurse and you have a principal and you have teachers. Yes. You need somebody in the district to offer support to kids that need it. Yep. Not just your social worker, because they are dealing with issues, and not just your school psychologist and your guidance counselor.
Absolutely. And they don't have that, again, when we talked about how a school runs, the social worker is not necessarily doing one-on-one therapy with a child.
They can, yeah.
That's not what a social worker does in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's also probably reactive, right? I mean, I haven't been in the schools, but your work seems very proactive.
Yes.
Where you're trying to get the kids there and get them making different decisions and comfortable before a social worker is needed.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
Heavy stuff, super important stuff, right?
Yes.
The work you're doing is amazing.
Well, thank you.
Truly needed. I don't know if there's anything more important than giving kids that that have uncapped potential, an opportunity when the system, frankly, just kind of is built to pass them by. And
Just being
built
that person for a kid to be successful.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? To know that you're truly making a difference in a kid's life.
No doubt.
Yeah, and when they come back and see you, like, a few years later, like, oh my
that's
God,
the
you
real
help.
pay, right?
And we've actually hired some of our
That's
former
awesome.
students, and they're like, I want to give back too. So
That's
yeah,
great.
Probably
yeah.
the most impactful, right? I
Yeah,
mean, when
sure.
they can get in front of the kids and speak first person, right, through their
Yep.
lens and what that looks like
Absolutely.
in the end. So we're going to lighten it up a little bit. We always end these with rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'll start.
Some
All
are
right.
more rapid than others.
Favorite spot in central New York to unwind?
Ooh, that's a good
Just
one.
relax.
Just one. I love to do a plug out for another place. Is Brimfield Winery is right around the corner from me, and also sitting right in the pond on Old Forge.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
Yeah.
Brimfield, you can use the
You can
driving
hit us a couple
range.
golf balls, too.
Exactly.
I'm sure you've seen our son. He spends a lot of time at the driving range. That's his favorite spot to unwind. One word that your team would use to describe your leadership style.
Inclusive.
Very appropriate. Last show or movie you binged?
I don't know, because that could be embarrassing too.
Good.
I
That's what we're
just
going for.
watched. I know. Shrinking. I loved that show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
watched
watched that. It was
yeah,
really good.
that was really good.
Yeah.
It was really fun to see Harrison Ford in a different
I
kind of goofy.
loved him.
It was-
in
I
that.
know.
Actually,
Yeah.
okay, it took me a minute because I'm like, we watched it, we liked it, and then Harrison Ford
We
was
loved
amazing.
the tall guy
in it.
too that was on it. What was his name? The
Oh my God.
one that lost his wife.
Yes.
Oh, I can't remember his name, but
I
anyway,
can't
great
even- yeah,
show. Great
yes.
show.
We all would recommend it. All right, let's go to a book that changed your perspective.
Probably Dr. Nadine Burke, who did work on trauma-informed care, and she's a pediatrician, my idol, and became the first Surgeon General of California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Secret talent or hobby people might not know about you.
That's a good one. I love to garden. That's my solace. It's where I find peace, and also I can pull weeds. And when somebody makes me mad, I'm like, it's their head I'm pulling out of the ground. But I also like to knit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Lost art form.
it is. And you what do you do with all these things you knit too? There's only so many things you need, or so many blankets you need.
Grandma's Afghan. Most underrated thing about living in Utica.
The people. I just really don't feel like, the diversity of people, and I don't feel like we appreciate the diversity of that. And that could be, people from all walks of life. Like, I love to go down to, down around Munson Williams and just watch people, because it's just an amazing, whether people have struggled or people from all walks of life. Like, I feel like you can just be in any part of the city and just be you, which I love.
What gives you hope right now?
There's an awful lot of things that give me hope. I think we live in a very hopeful time. I think we can, to watch that, if you've been treated badly in school, we can turn that around. If somebody said something negative to you, we can turn that around. Nothing's permanent. Everything kind of changes. That's why I love the changes of the seasons. It's like if I had a hard time in one season, another one's coming. We can just always rethink and reimagine ourselves, our community, whatever we want to do. Nothing has to stay the way it is.
And I do think that aligns with the work you're doing because what gives me hope is that I think there's more opportunity for our
Yes.
kids' generation today than there ever has been.
Right.
It used to be who you know or where you came from or what you had,
Yep.
but now with organizations like yours and others, we're identifying, opportunities for everybody.
Absolutely.
Which
Absolutely.
is awesome. So, Anne Lansing, this has been a lot of fun.
Yes,
and,
it has.
great
I've enjoyed you
conversation.
guys.
Yeah, Safe Schools Mohawk Valley. We'll put all of the links in the show notes for you to connect with them and support them and see different opportunities that are coming up.
Thank you for all you're doing and shining the light on all the greatness in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.